Some games are about conquering kingdoms or saving worlds. Some games are about building an astronomical clock in the city of Prague, which actually sounds kind of classy. I'm Mike with Expedition Gaming, and this is Orloj. Welcome to Prague, around 1865-ish. We have the illustrious privilege of completing the astronomical clock, which is found in the heart of the old town. And that is exactly what we'll be doing. We'll be working to complete this calendar right here. You could take all the busyness of this board and distill it down to this calendar. This will be the heart of the game. We'll be working to complete this, and once we finish its construction, that will trigger the end of the game. You might look at the vibrancy of this board and assume a certain level of busyness or complication to how the game plays, but really, once you know your way around and the flow of what you're trying to do, it's a pretty pure experience. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly a level, there's a depth of decision space that's here, but it's not at a level of busyness that the vibrant artwork might suggest. And I think you'll see that once we get going here. Now we are all set up for a 2-player game. We will be playing as the purple player, going up against Yeti, who will be the green player. Now Orloj is a game that doesn't necessarily have rounds, so to speak. You'll take a turn, it'll go to the next player, they'll take a turn, and you just go around the table like that, taking turns, until the end of the game is triggered. And like I said, completing this calendar here is one of the triggers for the end of the game. The other trigger is this rooster track right here. This rooster advances to that last space. That will also trigger the end of the game. And I'll explain how that advances here in a little while. Just know that we'll go around and around taking turns until either that's fully constructed or the rooster hits the last space on that track. At which point we will go into final scoring, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, speaking of scoring points, I want to highlight a few key areas where your points will come from throughout this game. Now, as you might imagine, constructing into the calendar will score you points. You have a grid of month dials over here, and you have a grid of zodiac dials. Building from either of these sections into the calendar is going to score you points. In addition, you have these tracks over here with some scoring conditions on them, and if you advance far enough on those tracks to qualify for that, that'll be a good chunk of points. And then the other thing to call your attention to are these assistants that are up here. Throughout the game, you'll have the opportunity to acquire some of those assistants, and they have specific criteria that they score as well. So those can net you a good chunk of points as well. Now there are a variety of ways to score points, kind of sprinkled all throughout the game, and we'll see those as we go along here. But those areas that we just highlighted, those are things you want to pay attention to right up front. Those are things that you want to chase from the beginning. So with all of that in mind, let's just jump right into gameplay and you can see what it feels like to take a turn. So we'll be the starting player. And when you take a turn, the first thing you do is take one of your available workers and place it out around the astronomical dial. Now the first step to that is rotating this dial. First, you rotate the hand, and the hand will always advance clockwise at least one space. So in this case, we will rotate like that. Then you place your worker out in the space that the hand is pointing towards, and you'll take the actions that are shown here and here. And you can do those in whatever order you want. I'm gonna lay these flat. It's kind of harder to see it when they're standing up on the camera's angle there. So that is what the default movement and placement looks like. Now there are ways to manipulate that. Like I said, the hand will always advance forward at least one space, but you'll notice this track right here shows that symbol. So we start down in this zone here, and that symbol indicates how many spaces forward you can move that hand by default. So at the start of the game, we can advance that hand forward 1 space. As we climb this track, we reach this area, then by default, we can move this hand 1 or 2 spaces, all the way up to 4 if you reach the top areas of the track there. So by climbing that track, you'll gain more flexibility on what actions you have available to you on your turn. But you actually start with a little flexibility as well. You might have noticed these gears that are at the top of our player board. You can actually break one of these gears to force the movement of that hand. For every gear that you break, you can advance that hand forward 1 more space. We actually start with a few of our gears already broken. And that comes from the starting cards that you receive at the beginning of the game. These cards dictate sort of your starting scenario. They give you some resources, some bumps up on those tracks, one of our starting apostles here, and some various things. We'll get into the details of that here in a little bit. But each player's setup is unique, where Yeti's only got a couple of broken gears and some different starting resources. And again, that comes from these starting cards here. So if you break one of these gears to force movement, the rulebook calls that forcing a deviation. That will allow you to advance the hand forward, but forcing a deviation will give you one other area of flexibility. You can actually change the rotation of the clock face. The clock face is this blue sort of inner dial right here. So for every gear that you break, you can actually rotate that clock face backward 1 segment like that. And of course, what this does is it gives you access to a different set of actions. The clock face always rotates counterclockwise. The hand always rotates clockwise. And whenever you're rotating either of these elements, they rotate independently of each other. So all of that fancy footwork boils down to which actions you have available to you on your turn and which you can sort of force to come about for you. But again, this right here, this is our default scenario. The hand advances forward 1 space, you place your worker down there, and now we have access to these actions right here. And as I said, we can do them in any order that we want. So we'll start with the really With those actions done, we can now choose between either moving the painter or activating the moon. If we move the painter is found right here, and you will move the painter to a new spot and then take either the benefit on the left or the benefit on the right. And the amount of movement you get for the painter is shown right here on the yellow track. So we can move the painter up to 3 spaces. Now there are a lot of really good benefits around the calendar here, so that can be a pretty powerful move. Moving or activating the moon, on the other hand, is this little track right here. And for every space that you cross over, you'll gain that benefit. That is also found on this track here. So to start, we can move the moon 3 spaces. Now for the moon, you always move it exactly the number of spaces on that track. So we would move it exactly 3 spaces. And in fact, that's what I think we want to do. We did not start with very many resources, and we started with 3 broken gears. So we're going to move it 3 spaces, which will go 1 and give us a wood. It'll move to the second space. That's the icon for fixing one of your broken gears. And then for our third movement, it'll go right there, and that'll get us a paint. So we'll get a paint and a wood, and then we can repair one of our gears. And of course, repairing gears means that we now have that flexibility back if we want to force deviations. But also, eventually, when that rooster advances on its track, it's going to hit a point where we're going to look at how many broken gears we have and try to fix them. And anything that we can't fix, we'll lose some points for. We'll see all of those in detail here in a little bit. But fixing gears is always a good thing. So that is it for our turn. We have rotated the hand, placed our worker, and then taken the actions of both the inner and the outer in whichever order we prefer. So now it will go over to Yeti. So he'll grab one of his workers and simply going to advance one space. Now this here allows him to activate production of his stone. So we look down to our player board, and these are the production tracks for ink, wood, and stone. So his is currently set at a 1, so by activating his stone production, he'll gain 1 stone. And that's it for that one right there. And that, believe it or not, sums up everything that you will find on this blue middle section here. You're either activating production tracks or you're climbing up knowledge tracks, which the game refers to as mastery. Next up is construction. Whenever you activate this icon here, it's going to let you build another segment into the calendar here. And of course, when you do that, you have 2 locations to choose from. You can either choose one of the calendar dials or one of the zodiac dials over here. And the procedure for either one of these is identical. Which one you choose is mainly going to come down to both a mixture of what resources do you have available and what benefit would you like to gain by building into the calendar. Now in this case, he's going to choose to build one of the month dials. Now the dials that are available to build are the ones that have the Roman numerals on them and that are next to the hammer. During setup, you will, in a 2-player game, randomly remove some of these dials out here and put these blockers in place. So it sort of tightens this up and pre-constructs some of the calendar here. Depending on your player count, you're going to have a different number of these randomly drawn out. But in this case, this is what we ended up with. So these Roman numeral dials he has access to, and the hammer is adjacent to these 2. So he could build either of these, or you can move the hammer as well. And the amount that you can move the hammer is dictated by this card that you receive during setup. By default, right now he's got his track right here, which means he can move that hammer up to 1 space if he would like. For us, we also started at 1, and we were able to upgrade our track through our starting cards setup, which for us is still a 1 for movement. If we get it all the way to the top, we can move that hammer up to 3 times, whereas Yeti can move his up to 2 times. He's good with that single bit of movement because he would actually like to move it right to here. So yeah, when you move the hammer, you just follow this inner track around here up to the amount that your card allows you to move. But then actually that is yet one more way that you can force a deviation. You can break a gear to move that hammer 1 additional space for every gear broken. And you're reminded of that right there. So with his already built-in movement, he was happy to go right there because he would like to build that dial right there. Now the cost to build a dial is always in resources, and you will look to the rows and columns that will dictate the cost of that dial. In this case, it's going to cost 1 gold and 1 wood. Now once this is built, the cost will increase for other dials that are also in that row or column. So for example, right now, building this one here only costs a gold and a wood, but once this is constructed, now building this is going to cost a gold, a wood, and an additional stone. So in this case, a gold and a wood, which he has, and it's also going to cost a worker, because you will take this dial, and when you place it out into the calendar, you have to commit a worker along with it. So this is going to come over and cover up the space where it belongs. This will go face up like that. And then one of your workers is now permanently committed to the calendar. Now, before we get there, you'll actually earn some victory points for every resource that's spent. Every gold that you spend is worth 2 points. Every resource is worth 2 points. So by putting the wood and the gold in there, he will earn 4 points. And then you'll also earn points for the workers that you place down. So this being his very first worker, that'll get him just 2 points. But then in the future, if he were to build, say, this dial right here, you'll score 2 points for every worker that's adjacent in this little cluster right here. But again, first one there is going to get him 2 more points. Next up, you will gain the benefit on the outer ring around the calendar from where you constructed that dial. So in this case, he will gain this benefit, and this will allow him to claim one of the apostles off of the board up there. And that's where these wheels come into play. When you gain an apostle, you'll look to either this one here or this one here and choose one of them. In this case, he's going to go with the purple number 1 there, and he'll simply grab that from these stacks up here. Are Yeti's supply of apostles. There are 12 total, and then this is our supply, and again, we started with one of them, but he's going to grab the purple number 1, so he'll just take that from here. And then whenever you gain an apostle, it must be stored into one of these 2 spaces up front. So he's got plenty of storage. If you don't have storage, you can't actually take one. In this case, he's just fine. And then later, as a free action, you can spend a resource to add an apostle into one of these slots up here. You have to match the color. So this purple one could go here, 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 or there. And then, again, pay the resource of the matching row, and then you'll gain the benefit of whatever you cover up. Then the last thing that would happen is if your construction card gave you a benefit, you would gain that at this point. You can see on ours here, when we construct, because we're upgraded there, we'll be able to increase on a track of our choice. And if we get to the top, we'll increase on a track of our choice, plus we'll gain a coin. But that's the construction action. First, you decide if you want to move the hammer. Then you pay the resources for the dial of your choice, and then you'll gain victory points for those. You'll place the dial out, gaining more victory points. Then you'll gain the benefit that is around the outside of the calendar. And last, you'll gain your hammer's benefit. And this is definitely the most involved action in the game. And like I said, constructing a month dial or a zodiac dial are exactly the same. The only difference really is resource costs, what your hammer might be around and what you have access to. And then, of course, what you might want to construct out here for either the benefits on the outside and of course, adjacency bonuses for scoring victory points. So that's everything that goes into the construction action. And with that, Yeti's turn is done, and it will pass back to us. Oh, but before I forget, he did grab an apostle. And anytime you ever take an apostle, you have to rotate these gears up here. So that'll spin just like that. And then you'll notice that this red gear has hit this arrow, which indicates the rooster will advance forward 1 space on that track there. Now, there is a thematic tie-in between the apostles and the rooster track. On the actual astronomical clock, there's a thing that they call the Walk of the Apostles, which is a spectacle in which every hour the rooster crows and the apostles appear over the Orloj in a synchronized choreography. So that's sort of the thematic tie-in to what you're seeing there. Now, functionally in the game, as I mentioned before, this is one of the endgame timers. And the full detail of this is that once the rooster hits this 0 space, that's when we'll take a look at our player boards and find out how many deviations have we forced. We can correct as many as we have climbed up on this track. So if that rooster were to hit that space right now, we would look and see that we have 2 deviations. We can repair 2 of them, so we're fine. But if this was the case, then we could repair 2 of them, which we would, but then since we still have 1 left over, we would actually lose 1 victory point for every broken gear still showing. Now conversely, if you're able to repair all of your gears and still have some repairs left over, you'll gain 1 point for every repair that was unnecessary but you were able to perform. And speaking of broken gears, that is yet one more way that you can force deviations. When you go to take an apostle, if you don't like the current selection that's there, you can break a gear and rotate the set of gears, 1 rotation for every gear that you decide to break that way. But then, finishing the explanation of this here, once the rooster hits the 0, we'll check out our gear situation and resolve that. Then we'll advance this cube to the next space, and whatever number it covers up, we'll reset the rooster back to that number. So in this board here that's got the little star on the top, this is the one that they recommend for your first game that you play. It's 3s all the way across. But there are other boards that could come out and it might have a varying number, like maybe 2 and then 4, then 2, then 4. So that can sort of alternate how quickly you move into the rooster's call. But in this game and in this case, every time the rooster hits that 0, we'll advance the cube, slide him back to 3, and then once we're at the final space and the rooster hits 0, that is the final endgame trigger. That is, of course, assuming that we have not already completed the calendar and triggered the end of the game in that manner. I'm just realizing that we had repaired that gear. Okay, now for our next turn, grab a worker, and our default movement is going to take us to here. But I think this is kind of a bad move for us. We obviously could get that yellow track bump, but we don't have any coins, so we'd miss the second half of that benefit. And then this action here is called expanding your workshop, and it's how we get these cards that are up here. These cards have some good benefits, such as unlocking another worker for yourself and gaining benefits that are sort of on the card itself. We'll see that in detail later, because right now is kind of a bad time. We don't really have the right resources to actually do this very well. So with that in mind, I think we're going to go ahead and break another gear that we just keep fixing, force a deviation, and let's rotate this 1 extra space to right there. This will activate our wood production track. And of course, we're at level 1, so that'll gain us just a single wood. And then this action here will gain us a coin, and then we can bump up one of our tracks on our player board. So there's the coin, and now we have 4 tracks to choose from. We could do paint, wood, stone, or our construction track. Or I guess it's your hammer cube. And every one of these tracks are good to upgrade. Of course, producing more resources is always good. And once we get all of our cubes up to or past level 2, we'll unlock this worker and that one, so forth, as you climb up all of your cubes. But I'm thinking that we're already upgraded here. Let's just take it all the way to the top and really get max benefit out of our construction action. This means that whenever we do construction, we'll have the greatest flexibility with moving that hammer around, which will give us good access to the dials we want. And then we'll gain a coin and a bump on a track. And coins are really good because they can act as, they're basically a wild resource. They can be paint, wood, or stone. So it's always good to have those around. And of course, we saw you need coins for some of those mastery track bumps as well. So we'll go with that, and hopefully that'll be a good choice for us. But that's it for our actions. That's our wood production, our coin, and we've bumped up on a track. Back to Yeti, and he is going to take the default movement of that single rotation, place his worker out right there. And he's going to do this action first, and that is activating his sculptor. Now, around the board, there are 4 different places to place the sculptor. Now, he's going to go with this one right here. When you place the sculptor down, if the sculptor is not on the board, then you can place that sculptor in any of those locations. If your sculptor is already on the board, then you need to move to a new location. In this case, he can go wherever he wants. He's going to choose right here. And you'll notice there are 3 levels of actions that the sculptor can take. And looking back to this pink track, that's another benefit here. We start with our sculptor at level 1. Once you reach this space, your sculptor is a level 2 sculptor. And once you get there, then your sculptor becomes a level 3. So we start as a level 1, which means Yeti has access to that action right there. He's going to need to break a gear, and then he can either move the painter or activate the moon. So he will take his broken gear, and he's actually going to move the painter. So again, he has up to 3 movement. He can choose however far he'd like to go out of those 3 movement. And he's going to go 1, 2. And again, you can take the benefit on the left or the right. He's going to go with the benefit on the right, which will give him a gold and a coin. So that's the sculptor part of his turn. And now he'll advance on tracks. 1 on the blue/turquoise, and then he can pay that coin he just gained for a track bump of his choice. So he will spend that coin. He's going to take the blue track advancement, and then he's actually just going to carry right on up for his second bump, working toward crossing that threshold. Back over to us. And once again, we're going to take that default movement. We will produce some paint. We'll gain a coin and an apostle. There's the coin. Our production is at 1, so we will gain 1 paint. We currently have 1 red apostle. So of the 2 that are on offer, we'll go ahead and grab this green one here, which of course we will remember to rotate this. And we will grab that green number 4. We have space to store it. And again, if we find ourselves where we need storage space and we don't have it, it's a free action to get one of these apostles placed out here. You need to, again, pay the resource for it. So that's something we'll probably want to eye up here fairly soon. And, you're always looking for the right time to cash in on these certain benefits here. If you complete a row, then you will score 7 victory points, and you can set off one of your production tracks. If you complete a column, then that is one of the main ways that you gain those assistants that we pointed out early on that will score you some endgame victory points. Or you could activate the moon if you would rather do that. But that's it for us. We've gotten our apostle, our coin. We did our production track. Over to Mr. Yeti. Grab one of his remaining workers, and with a single movement, he'll activate that space right there. He's going to move the painter again, And he's just going to repeat what he did a moment ago, giving himself a gold, a gold and a coin. Then he's going to spend that coin right away because he's doing 2 track advancements. He will advance once right there, and then his other advancement is right there. Now he's in that zone there, so he'll have a little flexibility on the hand movement, and he will gain one of these scrolls. He's going to go with this one right here. And again, these scrolls you can use as a free action on your turn at any time. Over to us, and we are going to take that movement there, but let's risk it. Keep forcing some deviations here, and we're going to force this one back 1 notch because I'd like access to the track advancements. So we'll place that there. That'll bump us up once on the yellow track. And then for the cost of a coin, we will advance on another track, and I think we'll push up right there. And that will, of course, grab us a scroll as well. We'll take that one. And then I'm just going to use it right away. There's no reason to wait on this one. That'll gain us the coin back, and it will increase this track for us. So whenever we do the rooster's call, we'll be able to repair 3 of those deviations up there. So with those 2 advancements done, now we will construct. Now we have 3 hammer movements by default. And I think we're also going to do one of the calendar dials here. With those 3 movement, I think we're just going to use 2 of it to come down right here. I want to build this dial here, but if we move to there, then on a future turn, we actually would have access to everything. We could either build this, or with 3 more movement, we could get up to either of those. So a little forward thinking there, but we'll stick to there. And then we're going to build this one right here, which is going to take a gold, a wood, and then a resource of our choice. So we'll do the gold, the wood, and we'll do 1 more wood for the resources. That, of course, will gain us 6 points for all of those resources. Then we're going to have to commit our last available worker. But that will go out right there, which will gain us 2 points for placing him there. And we will gain the outer ring benefit, which is going to be 2 track advancements of our choice. We're going to have to pay a coin for 1 of those. And we're going to take both of them on the yellow track. And now the last benefit is you'll gain the benefit of your hammer. And in this case, we get another track advancement of our choice and 1 of the coins back that we just spent. So I think for this, let's go ahead and cross that threshold. That'll gain us another scroll. And now we have more flexibility with our painter movement. And whenever we activate the moon, we'll gain even more benefits. And speaking of, thinking we grab this one right here. That'll let us activate that moon whenever we need, which might get us some choice resources or help us repair some broken gears. Now Yeti is going to grab his last available worker. That's going to rotate right there. He's going to place this one out right here, and he's going to expand his workshop, which is, again, these guys right up here. Now, when you take this action, you can choose one of these cards, and you have to pay the cost to purchase it. The cost is located down here. It will always cost at least 1 paint plus more resources. And the resource that's in addition to the paint is dictated by the card and its position. So in this case here, he's going to pay 1 paint plus 1 of that resource, or 2 of that resource. So if he wanted this card, he would pay a paint and 3 wood. In this case, he's going with this card here. So he's going to pay 1 paint plus 1 more paint. Now he has a paint, but he also has gold. And as you can see here, you can spend coins or gold as any resource. So for his second paint, he's going to pay a gold, and that will allow him to claim this card here. Now he also gets to unlock the worker that is above in this little station here. So he gains that worker, and then you gain the benefit that is on the top of the card. He's going to gain a bump on a track of his choice. He's going to go ahead and boost up his wood production. Now, you can ignore that symbol there for the rest of the game. You only get it when you acquire that card. So for space sake, I'm going to tuck in the cards that we receive, these workshop cards. I'm going to tuck them in to the board for each of our setups over here. It's not the best, but I'm running out of space. So we're just going to tuck that in like that. You'll notice that there are some icons that are on each side. If you can ever get a couple of workshop cards and then complete the picture in between, you'll gain that benefit. In addition, and also very importantly, you need to have workshops on hand to be able to acquire those assistants. So we've mentioned these guys now about how they provide endgame scoring. The whole life cycle of that is you'll find a way to acquire this either by completing one of these columns or advancing up on that track far enough, things like that. And then at the time that you get it, it gets stored right here. Then, similar to Apostles, as a free action, you can pay to slot an assistant into one of your workshops. It's going to cost a paint to slot that assistant in, but then when he does, he'll gain the benefit that he's covering up. So several little things that are all kind of wrapped into that, but this is the path to getting an assistant locked in for final endgame scoring for yourself. So lots of good uses for these workshop cards. And then when you're done with that, these will all slide down, making the cost of acquiring one of these a little bit cheaper. Coming back to us, we are all out of workers. So normally we would need to pass, but I think what I'm going to do is we'll spend this ink to slot this apostle in. Now remember, this is a free action to do this, so we're going to put this apostle in right there. The green matches the green space. We are putting it into this row here, which costs that paint. Keep calling it ink, but it's paint, which that will unlock a worker for us. So now we can go ahead and take a turn. So we will snag that guy and place him out right there. That's going to gain us a coin, and we could advance on a track, a production track down here, and we'll go with the stone. Now we will advance at least once on the blue, and then we'll pay that coin that we just got for 2 track advancements. So there's the blue. And we might as well get that one step away from being in the next zone there. Coming back to Yeti, he has an available worker, but he doesn't like the options in front of him. No matter what he does, he's going to have to take another deviation. He has to force another deviation, and he's already got 3 broken gears. And if he goes here, he's going to be activating the sculptor. And each spot that he goes to is going to force him to take another broken gear. And so if he wants to avoid that, he'd have to break a gear, force a deviation, and move it past. So no matter what he does, he's looking at, you're not technically required to do any of the particular actions that are available to you. So it's either he's doing a really weak turn or he's going to pass. So it makes the most sense for him that even though he's got a worker, he's going to go ahead and pass. When you pass, you take a look at this pink track here, and you will get to recall the number of workers equal to the level that you're on. So in this case, he'll get to pull back 2 of his workers. And just as a reminder, you never get to pull back the workers that are committed to the calendar. So he will recover these 2 here. Then you get to activate the moon. And you activate the moon equal to where you're at on the yellow track. So in this case, he'll get to advance it 3 spaces. As you climb up into further sections, you'll get to augment that number. So if he was sitting right there, he would gain 3 plus 2. In this case, he's there, so he will gain his regular moon movement, which will give him 3 advancements on the moon track, which will be repairing a gear, getting a stone, and repairing a gear. So there's his stone, and he gets to fix 2 of his gears, which is going to be very important for him because he cannot actually repair any gears just yet. So whenever we get into the rooster's call, that could be a dangerous situation for him if he doesn't find a way to fix it. Which, speaking of the rooster's call, that's the last thing that happens when you pass. You advance that rooster 1 space on that track. So we're only basically 1 apostle or 1 pass away from hitting the rooster's call. But that's it when you pass. You call workers back, you activate the moon track, and you advance the rooster. And, as sitting here looking at this track, realizing that Yeti would have had an extra advancement to come over there for that action instead. This probably still makes the most sense for him given how many of these broken gears that he had and the inability to repair them on his own. So at least by doing this, he was able to get himself in a better shape for whenever we have the eventual rooster's call. And back over to us. We're out of workers, and I think we're going to do that fancy footwork one more time. We will slot this apostle into that space there. Red meets red. That'll get us a worker. And of course, we'll need to pay the resource for that. We'll spend a coin as a wild resource. That'll let us then take that worker and deploy him. And with our 2 movement available to us, we will rotate to right there. We'll do the top action first, which will gain us that coin right back, and then we'll gain an apostle. And for the apostle between these 2, let's go with the purple one here. One thing we didn't talk about are these little goals right here. These are a first come, first serve. First person to accomplish each of these gets to commit a worker to one of these spots here and gain the topmost points. These would be at the end of the game, but first person to get it done could slot in right there to get 8 points. And in addition, you can claim this little bonus tile there. Then that gets flipped. And then the second person to come in and complete that could still claim it, but for a lesser amount of points. This one here is the first person to gain 3 purple apostles into their board. This is the first person to gain 3 workshops. And this is the first person to build 1 zodiac dial and 2 month dials. So we went with the purple partly because of this. But also I'm thinking that we can do that one more time at some point and slot in a purple apostle there to unlock that last worker from there. So now that we've grabbed an apostle, this will rotate. And of course, we have a red gear hitting the arrow. which means the rooster has advanced to that final space on that track. Now when that happens, whoever just triggered that will grab the rooster and place them up on this little slot on their player board, just as a reminder that at the end of this player's turn, you're going to resolve the rooster's call. So now that happened from the top action. We can go ahead and finish this off by advancing once on the pink track, and we'll pay a coin to advance on a track of our choice. So the pink track will get us across that threshold there, and I think we'll grab that scroll right there. And then for the second track, we'll go right here. We'll take our artisan up to level 2, or the sculptor, not the artisan. And whenever we do finally put the sculptor out, it'll be at a better spot for taking good actions. So those are all of our actions, but I think we should probably use this scroll right here, which will let us move the painter. And remember, we are at a spot here where we can move the painter up to 4 spaces. So we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and give us access to that benefit right there, which is gonna let us take our rooster track all the way to the top. So now, when we go into this rooster's call, we'll be able to repair all 4 of our broken gears. If we ever get any further bumps on this track, we'll actually gain a victory point and a gold for the fact that we're already at the top of that track. We technically could use that scroll right there, and that would get us 4 moon movements, which would basically equate to a wood, a paint, and 2 gear repairs, which that could work in our favor because those would be 2 gears that would not need repaired during this rooster's call, which would basically translate to 2 victory points. But I'm thinking maybe we hang on to it for at a later time if we ever do crank up these gears again and we're not close to doing a reset. I guess for flexibility's sake, we'll just hang on to this scroll, and hopefully that's a good choice. But with our turn completed, we will now do the rooster's call. So we get to repair 4 of our gears. So everything's going to get repaired. There's no excess. There's no deviations that we could repair, but none left to repair. So no extra victory points. But also, we were able to fix everything so we don't lose any points either. Unlike poor Yeti here, he's not able to repair anything. So that's going to stay broken, and he's going to lose 1 point for not being able to repair it. Then this will come back up. We'll advance this cube 1 space. It's covering up a 3, which means we put the rooster back onto the 3. And then you just keep right on rolling to the next player's turn. That's all there is to a rooster's call. So that'll take us back over to Yeti. And given the fact that that track is so woefully low like that, he's going to take this worker, rotate that 1 space, and he's going to send it to this spot. Now, anytime you place a worker into a spot where there was previously a worker, the pre-existing worker gets bumped out and sent back to that player's supply, which, by the way, you can bump out your own worker and recover your own worker. But in this case, he has bumped us out, so this will come back to our supply. And then he's going to move the painter, and he's just going to go 1 space so he can take advantage of increasing his rooster track. And then he'll activate his stone production, which is still at 1, so he will gain a single stone there. Coming back to us, I really would like to go here because I'd really like to bump up on that yellow track a couple times, but we are poised on all of these tracks to be able to get assistance if we want them, and we have no home for assistance. We don't have any workshops. So I'm thinking with that, why don't we go ahead and just rotate all the way over here and get ourselves a workshop. So we'll place that there. That'll activate our wood production, which is just at 1. So we will gain 1 wood, but then we can grab ourselves a workshop, and that'll cost an ink. And we'll go with this guy right here for that wood that we just gained. And that will, of course, unlock this worker for us as well. So there's the wood and the paint, aka the ink. And then we'll get to set off one of our production tracks. Might as well go with the stone since it'll give us the most. Back to Yeti. I'm going to do a single rotation and bump us out again. Then he's going to perform this outer action first, which will gain him a coin and a track advancement. Boost up his paint production. Then he'll get a blue track, and with that freshly minted coin, he'll climb up another one, and he's just going to push both of them up right there, which will give him an assistant. He's going to grab this one right here that says that basically every advancement that you make in your production or your hammer cube is going to be worth a point at the end of the game. Of course, he has room for it here. And then as a free action in the future, he can pay 1 paint to slot that assistant in there and then be able to increase his rooster track over there. I just realized that I forgot to refill these guys over here. For our turn, I think we want to send the sculptor out. So we're going to bump Yeti's worker back to him. We'll activate our ink production or paint production, and then that'll gain us 1. And we've never sent the sculptor out yet, so we will do that. And I think we'll just go right there. Now we are a level 2 sculptor, so we'll get to do this level 2 action, which is going to cause a deviation. No problem. Plenty of room there. That'll gain us a gold and 2 coins. And I want to do some more construction on the calendar, but no matter what type of construction you do, whether it's over here or over here, it always takes gold. So we definitely want to get some gold on hand. Over to Yeti, and he's going to take a free action to pay this stone and slot that apostle in right there. Takes a stone for that row. By doing that, he can upgrade one of his tracks, so he's going to boost that one up right there. And by getting all of these at level 2, he unlocks that worker for himself there. He'll take his freshly trained worker and is going to send him out right here. So we'll gain another worker back. And we'll, as you're seeing, you'll start seeing that a lot more after that first go around. There's workers kind of sprinkled throughout, so there'll be a bit more bumping that's going on. And of course, at a higher player count, this is going to be firing off all the time. So he will gain a coin and an apostle. He's going to go with the number 7 there, which will then rotate that. And then he'll get a bump on the pink track, and he can pay a coin to advance on any other track. He's going to pay that coin to go up twice there, which will gain him a scroll. He'll take that one, and just like us, he's going to use it right away. There's no point in hanging on to it, so that'll advance him once there and gain him that coin right back. Over to us, we will grab that worker. We're going to do 2 rotations, and we're going to bump ourselves out. And then we'll do the construct action. And for this one, I think we will build one of the zodiac dials. So we have 3 movement on our hammer. We're just going to come down right there for 2 movement, because we're going to build this one right here. That's going to cost a gold and a stone. We can take this guy, and we will add that in right there, which of course we need to commit one of our workers to. And point-wise, we gave up 2 resources for that, so it's going to be a total of 4 points for the resources, plus another 4 points for the workers, 2 for each worker that is in that little adjacent cluster there. So 4 points here, 4 points for the resources, total of 8 points. Then next we can gain the benefit that's on the outer ring here. We'll definitely pay a coin for that extra track bump. And I think for both of those, we will climb up the blue track here. So that's going to get us an assistant, and that'll cross us into the next threshold there. Let's go with this assistant right here. That's going to give us 3 points for every month dial that we've built at the end of the game. And I figure this one's going to score us for a similar thing, so maybe we'll try to really get up to the top of this track and get these month dials built. And now, just like Yeti, as a free action, we can slot that in for the cost of a wood and gain ourselves an apostle. Then the last benefit is our hammer's benefit, which will gain us a coin and another track advancement. Let's just keep the blue track party going. So we'll grab that, and then we'll get our coin. Then we'll come over to the inside action. More track bumps. So we'll take 1 up on the yellow, and we'll pay that coin. And yeah, we'll just keep going up there. That'll get us a scroll, and then we're up on the yellow right there. Grabbing a scroll, ooh, it's a tough choice. That they're all really good. It would be nice to build at a time of our choosing. Getting an apostle is always good, but I'm feeling like our tracks are so low right now that we could use a boost in that area. So we could spend it now, but I'm going to hang on to it. We can, when we realize, hey, we're about to produce on one of these, maybe we'll boost it then, or we can, figure out the right opportune time. So we'll grab that scroll. For Yeti's turn, he's going to just go a single rotation, place out there. So he'll activate his wood production. We'll get him 2 wood. And then he's going to spend a free action. He's going to spend this coin to place out this apostle into this slot right here. Coin acting as the wood, but then he'll get that coin right back. And then for the expanding the workshop action, he's going to snag this one right here. It's going to cost him an ink and 2 stone. So he will spend the coin as the ink. And then he'll grab this, which will also unlock that worker. And while I'm here, and before I forget, and now that he has a second one of these, he completes that icon in the middle, which will gain him an apostle. Looking out over to here, he's going to force a deviation to cause a rotation, which will advance the rooster. And then he's going to snag the purple number 12. And with that done, now it does its regular rotation. And of course, forcing that deviation broke one of his gears. Over to us. We will send this guy over here to bump ourselves out. And before we do anything else, I think let's do a free action to slot this assistant in to here. So we're going to spend the coin as the wood, and then that will gain us another apostle. And I don't know that we're going to beat him to the punch, but we might as well chase his tail, and we'll go after the purple apostles as well. So we'll bring that into there. And now we'll gain a coin, and we can increase one of our production tracks. We'll go with this one. And this seems like a good time to use that scroll there. We'll just increase that production track there, which will unlock another worker for us. Then we'll get one bump on the blue track, and we'll definitely pay a coin. Our blue bump will go there, and then for this one, we'll move up there, which will gain us, I think we'll take another assistant. We might as well lock up the other type here, which will give us 3 points for every zodiac dial that we build at the end of the game. And of course, we're going to need to make some room to give him a home. So just like Yeti, we're going to pay a coin as a stone so that we can slot that in, and we'll gain that coin right back, which will free up a home for him. Now the rules specifically say when it comes to timing of free actions that you can do free actions at any time on your turn. When it comes to splitting up between the outside and the inside actions, it's also very clear about that you have to completely resolve the outside before you do the inside, or vice versa, completely resolve the inside before the outside. So you can't switch back and forth between these two, but you are allowed to do free actions, it says, quote, at any time on your turn. And after taking that apostle, this rotates. Now that we've hit a red gear, the rooster advances forward one more space. Over to Yeti, and he's going to take a single rotation, but then he's going to force a deviation to bring that into alignment. And then he's going to do the bottom part first. Before he does anything else, he's going to spend this scroll to move the painter. And he's just going to go forward one space here. That's going to give him a gold and a coin. He's going to leave that coin behind, though, because he's going to spend it on his track advancements. So his first one's going to take him there. And his second one he'll take in the same spot, and he's going to do this for activating the moon. He will gain 3 movement, so he'll gain a wood, a paint, and be able to repair one of his gears. Then he will move his sculptor up to this space right here. And of course, he just advanced up and hit level 2 there. So he's going to take the level 2 action, which will force a deviation. Then he will gain a resource of his choice and construct. Resource, he's going to grab a stone. And then for his construction, he's going to go with a zodiac dial. Now his hammer can only move one space, so he'll drop down to right here, and he's going to construct this dial right there, which is going to cost a gold and a stone. We'll gain 4 points for those 2 resources. This will go out right there, and it will take his last worker. But that'll get him 2 points, and then he can increase one of his production tracks. And he'll go with this one. And then he's going to take a free action to place that apostle out. So he's going to put it in that row, which will cost him 1 paint. And he's going to place it right up here to unlock this worker. And with 3 purple apostles out, he has completed this objective right here. So he's going to take that worker he just unlocked and permanently commit it to that space there. So at the end of the game, he will get 8 victory points. But because he's the first one to do it, he will also gain this benefit right here. He'll get 2 track bumps, or 2 mastery track bumps of his choice. So that will flip over. And he's going to increase once on the blue and once on the pink. Not only does that get him into the next space of each track, but importantly, he crosses this threshold right here. And you need to have advanced at least to that 7th space in order to qualify for the scoring at the end of the game. Which, to explain these fully, this will score you for all of the calendar dials that the month dials that you have constructed. This will score you for every apostle that you have slotted into your apostle panel. And this will score you for every upgrade that you have received on your player board, whether it's production tracks or your hammer cube. And whoever is furthest up on the track will get the larger number of points, and whoever is second on the track will gain the lower number of points. And of course, at higher player counts, every player who has crossed that threshold will get to score that tile, and whoever's in the lead on that track gets the higher number of points. If there's ever a tie and 2 players are on the same space qualifying for the highest, all those players will score the higher number of points. Now these little scrolls right here, these are something to kind of pay attention to now, because we're on the threshold of being able to grab that one. We're not super far away from that. And these are first come, first serve. So whoever gets into this space will grab that tile, score it right away, and then it goes away. So that's something to pay attention to. This one's going to score us for each of the workshops that we've acquired. This will score us for each of the zodiac dials. And this will score us for every scroll that we have acquired. So we currently only have one of these, and we're just a couple spaces away from grabbing that. So we might want to think about getting some more of those soon before we actually bump into that. Okay, back to us. I think what I would like to really focus on is constructing these dials and the zodiac dials. We have assistants that are going to score us points for that, and I think that'd be good way to go. The issue is that as we know, it takes gold for every one of these constructions. We have no gold, and that's not the easiest resource to come across. So one of the ways that we can produce gold for ourselves is if we can get any one of these production tracks up to the top slot, because then that track will give you 2 of that resource plus a gold. So with that in mind, I think for the next little bit, I want to try to find ways to zip these tracks up as quick as we can and then produce off of them to get ourselves some gold so that we can start constructing more of these dials here. So to begin with, we'll spend our paint and we will put this apostle out right here, which will let us bump up one of those tracks, and we will go with the stone. And we'll take this guy, we're going to rotate once over to there, bump ourselves out. We're going to produce on that stone track. We get us 2 stone and a resource of our choice. So I think for that, we will go with the paint. And there's the worker we bumped back. And now we can grab another apostle. So there's the coin. And then for the apostles, we can grab either a red or a green. And I'm thinking maybe to try to complete this row right here. So the 3 and the 4 are available. We already have our 4 placed, so we'll go with the red 3. And then, of course, that will rotate this guy. Over to Yeti. He is out of workers. Now, he could, as a free action, spend that gold to slot that assistant in, which would give him an apostle, and then he could get a green apostle and do another free action to slot that in and pull a couple of workers back. But that's an expensive use of that gold. So instead, he's just going to pass. And being at this level here, he'll get to take back 4 of his workers. He will activate the moon, and it will be his base number here, +2. So the moon's going to move forward 5 spaces, and then he'll advance the rooster. So for his 4 workers, his 5 spaces is going to give him 1 of each resource, and then he can fix 2 of his gears. And then last, he will advance the rooster, and of course, that will actually bring it into the 0 space. So this will go to his player board. And at this point, he can do any other free actions that he wants to do, which he is going to spend a stone to bring this assistant in right there, which will give him another apostle. And for that one, he's going to go with the green 5. Now, you'll notice that as we rotate this and we have the red gear hit the arrow, whenever the rooster has already been called, you don't worry about any further advancements on that. So that is likely why he did that, because this is a time to grab an apostle that doesn't advance the game any further than it's already been done. So that will finish out his turn, and now we will resolve the rooster's call. At this point, he has no broken gears, but he has the ability to repair 2 of them. So since there's no need to repair those, he'll just score 2 points, 1 for each of those unused repairs. Over to us, we can repair up to 4. We only need to fix 1 of those, which means we'll score 3 points for the unused repairs. Then this will go back again up to the 3 space, and we'll advance that 1 more there. Coming back to us, we're going to come right over here and bump out Yeti. Now, I hate to pass up advancements on the mastery tracks, but I think I want to force a deviation and rotate just like that, which of course will break that gear. But here's what I'm thinking. We're going to spend a coin here to slot in this apostle right there. I know we were talking about completing this row, but if we do this, and then we bump that track up, now when we come back, we can produce on that track and get even better results. But first, let's move the painter. And, we can go forward up to 4 spaces, but we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to use that upgrade right there. We're going to push that track up 1 more spot. So just like that, we have now reached the top, and when we produce on this, we will gain 2 wood and 1 gold. Yeti, with his freshly refreshed workforce, he's going to take this worker. He's going to force a deviation. That will rotate there, and then his deviation will spin him like that. He's bumping himself out. And then he will spend a wood to slot, just like we did, that apostle in right there. And he's going to increase his paint production. And then he will activate that production, which will gain him 2 paint. And he's going to take a stone. And he's going to take a stone. Now he will construct. He's going to build one of the zodiac dials here. In fact, he's going to build this one right here. This is going to be one of the most expensive ones we've seen. It's going to take a gold and a stone. And then it's going to take a paint. And then it will take a resource of his choice. He'll go with his wood. So for all 4 of those, he will score 8 points. Then this will go out right onto this spot there. And then he'll get 2 points for each adjacent worker, so he'll get 4 more points. Then he will gain the moon activation, and he is still currently sitting at an activation of 3. So he'll get 2 gear repairs and a paint. And of course, he only needs 1 of those repairs, so he'll take the other one as a victory point. Oh, this should be right there. And he still has not upgraded his hammer, so no residual benefits from there just yet. But that'll bring us back to us. We'll snag this guy. And we're gonna stay right there, bump ourselves out. We will do a pink track bump, and we're gonna pay that coin to go up a second time. And in fact, we're gonna push up on that same track. Then we will expand our workshop. And I think we're gonna grab this one right here. That'll cost us a paint and 1 wood. I wouldn't mind grabbing one of these to unlock some of these workers, but the benefits that are on this card I think are gonna help us the most. First off, there's one of the upgrades that we need. Second off, this one's going to give us an apostle. This one, it's got the upgrade. We don't need that. Although if we were to bump up on the rooster track again, we'd get a victory point and a gold, which we do need. But I think this one might help us more in the long run. Plus, we don't actually have the wood on hand to pay for that. So we'll grab that one. We will gain an upgrade right there. Might as well go with this one, which will unlock that worker. And then as we slot this in, we complete that icon, which will let us do a construction action. I think we'll do one of these month dials. In fact, let's do this one right here. It's going to be a gold, a wood, and an extra resource, and a stone. So we will do the gold, the wood, the stone, and we have no choice. It'll be stone. So that will also be 8 points for our resources. This one goes right there. And now we can do another upgrade. Oh, but before I forget, we do get 2 points for placing him there. Now we really would like to place out this one right here, and it is a risk leaving that available for Yeti to come in and snag, because that'd be a nice point grab for having so many adjacent workers. But by placing this one out here, there's a couple things that are good for us. First off, we'll gain that upgrade. I think we'll take that one there. Now 2 out of our 3 tracks we'll be able to get gold from. The other benefit of placing that out is we now have 2 month dials and 1 zodiac dial, and that's what we need to complete this objective here. So I think we commit our last available worker to that. That'll get us 8 points at the end of the game, And importantly, it will also let us get that last upgrade that we need. So we now have everything maxed out. And that, of course, will unlock that last worker right there. Then last, we will gain the benefit of our hammer, which will give us a coin and a track increase. And let's just keep pushing up here. That will give us a scroll. And I think we'll take this one here. It's always nice to have the ability to do a construction when we have the means to do it and not have to wait for that action to come around to us. Now we could do a couple of other free actions like putting that assistant out and getting another apostle by using some of our resources in front of us, but I don't think there's any rush to do that. So we'll hold off on any more free stuff until we feel like it's the right opportune moment. But we did get every one of our tracks to the top. What's pretty cool about that is when we run production for them, we'll gain gold, but also now whenever we activate another track increase, that'll produce us a gold as well. So we're sitting pretty good now to be able to start generating some gold and cranking out constructions. So as we pass over back to Yeti, he's in a similar situation where he needs to start getting some gold. So he's going to send this worker out to right there. He's going to take this part first for a coin, and he's going to increase this one right here. He could do that one to unlock the worker, but by bumping that up, when he activates that production, he will now gain 2 stone and a gold. As we pass back to us, I am glad that we held on to these because I think I see a more opportune moment to cash in on some free stuff. So we'll take this and we're just going to rotate right to there, which will bump ourselves out. And before we do anything else, we're going to start cashing in on some of this stuff. So we're going to use this to activate the moon. We're at an activation of 4. So we're going to gain 2 gear repairs, a stone, and a wood. We can only do one of the repairs, so we'll gain the other as a victory point. And now we're going to spend that wood to slot this assistant in right here, which will gain us an apostle. And for what's available, I think we'll grab the purple number 7. And now we're set to take our actions. So we're going to use this coin. We're going to increase on the mastery tracks. And for the coin spent, we'll bump that up. So now we have crossed that threshold, and our sculptor is level 3. And then the yellow track will take us up into here, and we can grab another assistant. And really, either of these would be a good choice for us. We currently have 2 discs sitting at the level 4 spot, so this would be worth at least 8 points, and potentially 12 if we can get everything up there. This one here, this is for each completed column of your apostles, and we'll be poised to complete, I think, about at least 2 of these, so that's 10 points. So either one of those would be good for us. But I think we'll go with this one here. We're poised to be sitting on the apostles we need to complete those 2, and so can't go wrong with either one, but we'll shoot for that one. And now for the sculptor's activation, we're going to move from here up to there. And of course, as we saw, we've hit level 3. So we'll get to repair a gear, which of course we have no gears left, so that will be another point for us. This will gain us a gold. And then we get to expand our workshop. And This is the only one that we can afford right now, resource-wise. And in fact, we're going to have to pay that gold that we just got in order to cover the paint cost. So gold for the paint, and then we have the stone. And we can snag this one. Now when we add this in, once again, we have completed another icon, which will gain us another apostle. And now to make room for that apostle, we're going to spend this stone to place this purple one out right here. So that'll complete one of those rows for us. And we'll get to call back 2 of our workers. So we'll bring these guys back. So now we have room for that apostle. And I'm thinking we'll go with a green one so we can try to complete that column there, which means we'll need to snag the number 10. And that will rotate to a red gear, which will advance the rooster. Now, unfortunately, we're just a resource short from having a little bit better of a combo here. It's been good so far, but as we've completed this column, we can gain either an assistant or activate the moon. I would really like to grab that other assistant we were looking at, but we don't have room and we don't have a resource on hand to make room. Wish we did, but we're just short there. So instead, we will activate the moon. And again, we're still at 4. So that's going to be 2 gear repairs, which we don't need. So we'll take both of those as points. And then that'll also gain us a paint and a stone. Now the next thing is that we can commit a worker to this right here because we now have 3 workshops. So we will do that, which will gain us another apostle. And once again, we're going to have to make room. So I know we grabbed this guy to complete that column, but we have more combos a coming. So I think what we'll do instead is we'll spend this stone and we will slot him in right here, which is going to increase one of these tracks, but as we know, we can't take any more, so we will gain a point and a gold. And by completing that, we'll score 7 points and we can activate one of our production tracks. So we'll get a total of 8 points for that. And let's activate the stone production, which will get us 2 stone and a gold. And for the apostle, I think we'll take the green number 11 there. That way we can complete that whenever we're ready to do so. And of course, now we are sitting on the resources that we need if we want to slot that assistant in there to make more room. And when we do that, that'll gain us yet 1 more apostle. But I don't think there's a rush to do that. I think we can wait and hold off for now and see if we want to use these resources differently in a future turn. And then one more thing to hold off on. We could go ahead and commit a worker to this, which, we have 3 purple apostles on our apostle panel. But that's another one of these things that we have until the end of the game to slot that in, and that permanently removes a worker out of our rotation. So there's no rush to get in here. The damage was done by a Yeti when he already grabbed it. So we can wait on that, but we definitely want to remember to do that before we close out. Over to Yeti. And he's going to rotate once here to place out there, and he will force a deviation. So he'll gain a coin and an apostle. He's going to go with the red 2 there. That'll advance the rooster. Then he'll get a blue track bump and a track of his choice for that coin. He'll go up once there and once there. Over to us, and let's zip this right over to there. We'll push ourselves out, and we're going to construct. And let's build this one right here. That's going to cost 1 gold, 2 stone, and a paint. So we've got a gold, 2 stone, and a paint. That's going to be 8 points for the resources again. I forgot to move the hammer. We'll just stick it right there. So that'll get this guy out. And we've got just enough workers. And this will go out right there. And that'll gain us 2, 4, 6 points for that placement. And then we'll get to activate a production track. So I think we'll activate the stone track. As we look out at this one here, we know it's going to take stone. It'll take wood too, but if we want to get this guy cleared up, we'll need stone for that as well. So we'll have those on hand there. Then for our hammer benefit, we will gain a coin and mastery track increase of our choice. I think for that one, let's go ahead and at least cross this line here. That way we know we're going to score that. Ideally, we want to push up even further, but let's at least get across the line there. Because then we can activate this, which will give us a pink track, and then we'll pay that coin that we just got and choose another track. So there's our pink increase. And we'll go right there. That'll put both of these tracks on the verge of netting some good points off of those tiles there. For Yeti's turn, he's going to go there, and then he's going to force a deviation. And then he's going to expand his workshop. He's actually just going to go with this card right here, which is going to be 1 paint and 1 wood. Snag that. And then that will gain him an upgrade and complete this construction icon right there. He's going to upgrade his hammer finally so that he can use it on this construction. So now he's got a movement of 1 still, but he's going to force another deviation to come up there. And then he's going to construct that dial. So that's going to be a gold and a wood, which would be 4 points for him. Take his remaining worker and place it out to right here, which will gain him 4 more points. And to gain the outer benefit of a gold and a coin. For his hammer's benefit, he will take that deviation to move the painter. He's going to go 1, 2, 3 and grab himself an apostle. He's going to take the red number 3. And then he's going to pay a stone to slot that in right there, which will get him 2 of his workers back. Take these guys. And it completes this column. And so he's going to take this assistant right here, which will just be worth a straight 6 points for him. And he's going to spend the paint to slot that in, which will increase his rooster track. And that'll do it for his turn. I think our next turn will be a little bit of setup. We're going to move to right there, place that out, and we'll move the sculptor first. We're going to go right down to there, which will gain us a point since we have nothing to repair. And then we'll gain a gold and 3 coins. And then we're going to spend one of those coins for our track advancements. So the first one is the blue. It'll take us into this space. We'll get to claim that tile. And the second one, we'll go to right there. Again, we're not in a huge rush to grab that one. I think we'll end up getting it certainly before Yeti. So no rush there, and we'll push ourselves one step closer to a scroll that, who knows, maybe that'll be helpful for us. But this will go off right now. We'll get 3 points for each expansion to our workshop. We have 3 of those, and of course this says up to a max of 10. So we will get 9 points. That'll do it for us. Yeti, he's going to start swinging for the fences here. He's going to rotate that twice, and he's actually going to force 2 deviations to rotate that like that. And now he is fully deviated, but he's going to spend one of his coins to do track advancements, and he's going to go up twice on this yellow track, which will gain him a scroll, and he will take that one. And then he's going to move the painter. And for that, he's just going 1 space. He'll spend his other coin to gain 2 more track advancements. And he's pushing up there. Looks like he's trying to cross that threshold so he can at least score some of those points. And he's running out of time to do that. Now that he's hit that area there, he could take an assistant. There's 1 left. And that's not going to do him a ton of good. If he pushes, maybe he could get some up there. He certainly could deny that from us, and that would be good because that's at least 8 points that we would not get. But instead, he is going to advance the moon, and he's hoping that the resources that it will give him and freeing up a couple of deviations might be more valuable. So he is going to get 4 movements. So he'll gain a wood, a paint, and then he'll repair 2 deviations. Over to us. We are out of workers. We could pass, but I think instead, let's do some fancy footwork here. We'll spend a stone to slot that assistant in there, and that will gain us an apostle. Let's grab this green 5, which of course will advance that, which means that is coming down right there. And we'll gain that 5 there. Then we will spend this coin as an ink to slot that one in right there. And that'll let us call 2 workers back. And we will grab those 2. All right, now with that, we will send this guy right over to here. And we are going to expand the workshop. We're going to grab this one right here, which is going to cost 2 ink. And we don't have any ink, but we do have a coin for one of the inks. And hate to do it, but we're going to spend this gold as an ink. And then we'll grab this card Now that'll gain us 2 coins. Slide all these down. And as we slot this in, we complete another construction icon so we can do the construction action. And I think we will do this one right here. So we'll move that one space, and we're going to construct the only dial left, which is going to be gold, a wood, a stone, and a wood. So we've got another 4 resource construction, which will be 8 points. That will go out right here. And we'll gain 4 points for the placement. And then we'll get to activate a production. So we're going to activate the stone track, which will give us 2 stone and a gold. And then we will gain our hammer benefit, which is going to be another coin and a track advancement. For that, we're going to push up right there, which will gain us a scroll. We'll grab this and hope that we can find a way to pull out another apostle and get one placed up there. And in fact, let's go ahead and we'll spend this coin as a wood to slot this apostle in there, which will gain us that coin right back. But then importantly, it will complete this and we can grab an assistant, and you better believe we're going to grab this guy here. And let's use this coin to get 2 track advancements. So the first one's going to be on the blue track. We are maxed out there, and as you can see here, any further advancements would simply give you a point. So that'll gain us 1 point for that. And then for our other advancement, we have a tough choice. If we go here, we can score this tile, which this would currently give us 6 points because we have 2 of those zodiacs built. But if we cross here, then this would qualify then for the assistant that we just got. So this would be another 4 points. Let's do that. And then let's hope that we can find a way to get one more track bump here before the game closes out. And holy smokes, I think I see a monster combo tip. This is going to get us across the finish line. Yeah, okay, we're going to spend a gold and we're going to place this assistant out right there. That's going to let us activate the moon. And we're currently sitting at a movement of 6. So with 6, that's going to be 1 of each resource and 3 deviation repairs, which means 3 points. Now we've got 1 of each resource. Next, we're going to use this scroll to grab an apostle. And we want a red one. Now, the number 8 is what's on offer. We already have 8. So we're going to force a deviation. That will bring number 9 into view, and we're going to take that. So we'll just keep rotating that. And now we will spend this wood to place that out there, which will let us bring back 2 of our workers. We'll grab these guys. And with this column completed, no more assistants to take, but we will activate the moon again. So that's going to be 6 more movements, which again is going to be 3 points and 1 of each resource. And we're going to keep the combo train rolling, and we are going to do a construction. And in fact, there's only 1 more construction to do. It's this one right here. It's going to take a gold, a stone, another stone, and a wood. So we've got our gold, our 2 stone and our wood, which is going to be 8 points. That'll flip over to indicate we've crossed the 100 threshold. And we'll place that out right there. All by himself will give us 2 points. The benefit out here is going to be the coin and the gold. And then, of course, we'll get our hammer benefit, which will get us another coin and that track advancement we were hoping for. So we will push up to that last space. That will let us score this. And we have 3 of the zodiac dials, so we'll gain 9 points for that. And that should complete our monster turn. Now, something to note. We have now triggered the end of the game because we've completed the construction of the calendar. And when that happens, you take this tile here and you flip it over, and the game you'll continue finishing out so that everyone has an equal number of turns, and then the game will come to an end. And now that this has been fully completed, there's a special action available. So any players who have turns remaining, if they wanted to construct into this area here, they still can. It just requires 1 of each resource and a worker spent, and you'll gain 8 points for doing so. But we do need to resolve the rooster's call. So we have 1 deviation to repair and 3 that we'll gain points for. Yeti has 3 to repair, and his track is at 3, so he's good to go there. And now we'll move into Yeti's final turn. He's going to start with some free actions of his own. He's going to spend this wood to slot this apostle right there. Then he's going to use that scroll to grab another apostle. And he'll take the green 11. Then he'll spend a gold to slot that in, which will let him bring back 2 workers. And that will complete that row. So he'll be able to run production. He's going to run his stone production, which will gain him a gold and 2 stone. Then he'll get 7 points. And for his action, he's going to head right down to here, but he is going to force 2 deviations. 1, 2, like that. The first thing he's going to do is move his sculptor over to there. His sculptor is a level 2, so he will take this action here, which is going to force a 3rd deviation. He'll gain a resource of his choice, and then he's going to expand the workshop. So for the resource, he'll gain a stone, but then it's going to cost 1 ink and 2 stone to acquire the card that he would like, which is this one. So 1 ink, or paint, 2 stone. He'll gain that. And then he'll get to run the moon plus 2. So he's at a 4, so he'll get 6 movements on that. So that's going to be 3 repairs and 1 of each resource. And And you can fix those right back up. Now this will tuck in and complete a construction icon. So again, he can still do this. He just needs to turn in one of each resource and a worker, and he'll score 8 points. So there is one of each and a worker. We'll just place them there. Actually, we won't place them there. You don't place anybody there. And there are no adjacency bonuses or bonuses from the outside here. It's just a way to take that action and gain yourself 8 points. Oh, I'm just realizing that the stone is not what we meant for the extra resource, but it should have been a wood for that random resource there. And then the hammer bonus will go off for the construction, which means he will take a deviation, but then he can move the painter. And he can move the painter up to 4 spaces, so he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Gain a gold and a coin. And now he'll activate the mastery track advancements, so he will gain 1 on the yellow, and he'll pay that coin to go up on that one, which will give him a scroll. So his yellow will take him across the threshold, and then he'll gain a scroll, and he's going to go with this one. And then he's going to use that one right now. And again, he'll spend 1 of each resource and a worker to gain 8 points. His whole world is shifting. And then the last thing for him is the hammer bonus, which will be a deviation, and then he can move the painter again. He'll just go 1 movement to right there, which will gain him a gold and a coin. And that will bring his final turn to a close. And so with the end of the game triggered, and each player having had an equal number of turns, the game itself comes to a close and we move into final scoring. And final scoring is actually summarized right here on the board for us. The first thing that we score is the mastery tracks and the tiles that are associated with that. And so again, the first one here will score us points for each of the month dials that we've constructed. We're in the lead on this, so we'll gain 3 points for each. Yeti has crossed the threshold, so he'll gain 1 for each of this that he's constructed. So Yeti has constructed 2 of those, so he'll get 2 points. We've built 3 of them. They're each worth 3, so we'll get 9 points for that. Next up, we will score apostles that have been placed into our apostle panel. We will gain 2 points for each of those. Yeti will gain 1 point. And Yeti has a total of 7 apostles placed on his panel, so he'll gain 7 points. We have a total of 10 apostles on our panel. They're each worth 2 points, so we will gain 20 points for that. So we will jump up to 45. And the last one here is going to be each of our upgrades in our production in our hammer track. We'll gain 2 points for each. Yeti will gain 1. So Yeti has a total of 7. It's 1, 2 there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 upgrades for 7 points. And we were able to max all of them out. So that's a total of 11 upgrades, each worth 2 points. We'll get a total of 22 points for that. So we will go from 45 over to 67. That's the mastery tracks. Next up is gold. Every leftover gold is worth 1 point. Yeti has 1 gold. We also have 1 gold, so we will each get 1 point. Then, every uncorrected deviation will lose us 1 point. We're good there. Yeti, unfortunately, is going to lose a couple of points. And then we'll score our assistance. Now for this, Yeti will gain a straight 6 points for that, and then each one of his upgrades is worth another point as well. And of course he had 7 points for that, so that's going to give him 13 points here. Now for our assistance, we're going to do pretty good here. For each of the different types of dials, we were able to get 3 of those constructed, and each assistant will give us 3 points for every one of those. So it's going to be 9 for this one, 9 for that one, for 18 points for these 2. Next up, that assistant will give us, this one here, will give us 5 points for each of our completed columns. We have 3 of them, so we'll get 15 points for that. Our last assistant will give us 4 points for every disc that reached level 4 on the mastery track. And we got all 3 of them up into that zone. So we'll get a total of 12 points for that. And then the last category are the common stained glass objectives. And this I need to retroactively fix. We definitely, both of us, would have put out our workers. We had leftover ones, plenty of opportunity to do it. So Yeti would have used this worker, we would have used this one, and we certainly would have committed that there on our last turn. Yeti possibly could have done more, but at the very least, those could have been accomplished. So now we'll add all these points in. Yeti will get 12 points for his placement. And we will get 20 points for our placement. And that is the final score. We have crushed Yeti with our 233 to his 107. That wasn't even close. Now, I do my best to try to make sound decisions for each player, and usually it comes out fairly close, but holy smokes, this one was an absolute landslide. So we were able to pretty much cap almost everything out, and we focused heavily on the construction aspect of things, and that landed us a number of really good combos, like pretty powerful combos at different times. And Yeti just wasn't able to string that much together like we were on our turns. Now, I will say that player count can make a difference, like we talked about before, the way that you're bumping each other out and what actions are available. But the other thing that really will affect the game, the players absolutely will affect the flow and the dynamic, because how much you push for moving things around, and how many deviations you're willing to take and correct along the way. The players really drive the tempo of this game for sure. And so as you vary in player count, you're going to see a lot of interaction there. But regardless of what player count you're at, if players are taking their sweet old time going around the bend here, you're going to be able to visit most every action and get a lot done. Or you can really push and skip around. So player-driven tempo will make a big difference. But regardless of whatever tempo you find yourself at, I hope that this playthrough demonstrated for you the feel and the flow of this game, some of the interconnectedness, and more than anything, the heart of the actions and the way that they are connected in constructing that calendar there. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. With as much as going on here, there's a good chance I have missed something, so please leave me a comment if you notice something off, or something I missed, or a rules mistake, or even strategy tips. Love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you on our next expedition.